Hi to all of you. And this is a time to come together as sensitive people and empaths. Hi from Los Angeles. Hi from Edmonds, Washington. And come together as empaths and want to talk about how to deal with this stressful time, particularly as empaths. Because, I know for myself, as an empath, I don't have the same filters that other people have. So the stress of ordinary life can get to me more, as is true with all empaths. And also with this added stress, and the volume is so turned up on suffering, stress, loss, and trauma that we as empaths are very susceptible to this. And many of my patients are feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling stressed out, they're feeling exhausted. And so I want to talk today in this call about how to use the techniques from Thriving as an Empath. This is a book, 365 Days of Self-Care for Sensitive People. These techniques I use for myself every single day. And so I want to go through self-care techniques for you that you can practice. Now, as an empath, you might tend to be an emotional sponge and take on the emotions of other people. And the emotions are high, and the panic level is high, anxiety is high. And also, some of you might be physical empaths, where your body actually takes on the stress of the world. And so you might have added physical symptoms, added exhaustion, or the flip side to that, and a number of empaths have been emailing me about this, is that they're feeling better. They're feeling, some empaths are coping with this as just a big break, a big breath to take, a big breath to connect to the earth, to have your schedule slow down, to be able to be with yourself, to be with nature. And so that's a positive of what could come out of this time period. So it's not all uncomfortable for empaths. We're used to social distancing. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I have a personal space around myself that's pretty big. Excuse me, okay. The space around myself where I feel comfortable is pretty big. I like to keep a distance from people. And now with the social distancing, I'm more comfortable with that because I like people to keep a number of feet away from me. And what I'm noticing in myself, some of the issues coming up for myself is that if I do take a walk, and I live by the ocean, so there's lots and lots of space, not to go on the beach, but right by it. If there are certain people who are not obeying the social distancing, and I find this rage that comes up in me, the intrusion of my personal space and not honoring what we all need to honor now. So that, it's interesting. As an empath, I'm just going through this time and noticing in myself what's being activated, what's being emotionally triggered, and then trying to work with my triggers to the best of my ability. But we have empaths who are experiencing the anxiety, the stress, the depression, the exhaustion. How do you not take on the world's suffering? Empaths, that's one big thing that empaths do in ordinary circumstances, is to feel other people's suffering, want to help, which is natural, and we want to go in there, but we tend to take on other people's suffering in a codependent way, which means too much. And we bring it into our bodies in an ordinary situation. But in this situation, I just want to say it's a very sacred, important transition we're going through here on Earth. And it's important that you use self-compassion, you honor yourself as an empath and really realize how much input is coming into you, and being very gentle with yourself. And so it's important to be able to approach all this with the sacredness of what you have to learn in this experiencing, honoring the stresses and the difficulties. And this turns everything up on all of our practices as empaths, our spiritual practices, our mindfulness practices. how do we really apply it now in a time when the stress level is so high? And this to me is a spiritual undertaking. It's something to be honored. And because I come from a Taoist tradition and my spiritual teacher is a Taoist, we've been trained over the years to look at everything as a spiritual challenge, whatever it is, and that nothing is without meaning. And for me personally, it's been a time to up my meditation, to be able to spend more interior time with myself, to be able to really calm down and focus on myself and tune into my intuition. Intuition is a key self-care tool to use during this time because you need to know the difference between intuition and fear. This is a time to listen to your gut in terms of who feels comfortable to be with, what situations are comfortable, what people are comfortable, what people trigger me, what people make me more anxious, what people, do I need to set limits and boundaries with? And so it's a time to listen to intuition and not be caught up by the fear. And I'm not saying that's an easy task whatsoever, but it's a spiritual challenge. And part of my own spiritual path, and I know a lot of you who've worked with this, is how to live a life that's not based on fear and not overcome by fear and panic, and how to find your center amidst chaos. All right, very, very important. And I want to read you this section from Thriving as an Empath, because I know although we as empaths like the alone time, some of you are feeling socially isolated and really alone. So I want to read this for everyone. And I'd like you to take a deep breath, settle into yourself and listen with your body and try to feel the nurturing of this for yourself now. It's August 18th of Thriving with an Empath. I am not alone. At these moments, when you feel afraid, lonely, or without support you need, repeat this affirmation to regain your confidence. I am not alone. I am being watched over. A loving force surrounds me. When my heart is in pain, I will reach out to spirit. When my fears overcome me, I will open to the divine forces of universal compassion. I am held in the arms of love. All is ultimately well. Set your intention. I can handle any emotion. I am larger than my fear. I am connected to an ever-present spiritual force of love that protects me. I am connected to an ever-present spiritual force of love that protects me. All right, that's the beautiful meditation that you can reconnect with every time you experience fear or panic, because the fear and panic, there's a reality element to it, of course. Now, there is so much that you could experience fear and panic with. That's the reality element. However, as empaths, and this is true whether we're going through this time or any time, your job is not to be sucked into it. How do you not get sucked into it? You take a breath, you come back to yourself, and you say, I am larger than this feeling. I am going to connect to my heart. The heart chakra in the middle of the chest is the center for healing energy. When I have patients who have anxiety attacks, I train them to put their hand over their hearts when they're anxious in order to calm themselves down. This is a key tool to use now during this time period. If you notice that you're becoming obsessed with anxiety and fear and checking the news too much, which is a big mistake because you need to decrease stimulation level, you can have your dose of news, whatever that feels comfortable, but have it be minimal, because you don't want to trigger and fuel the anxiety and the fear. You want to do everything possible not to do that, despite the reality elements all around you. This is called a spiritual practice. This is what you do in good times and difficult times, and especially now. And it's asking a lot of you. I see some comments. Judith, that was so beautiful. Can you send me that? Can you send that to us or tell us how to access? All right, that was from Thriving as an Empath. You are not alone. The book is available on Amazon, but it's also available at Bookshop, which has a faster turnaround rate because Amazon and some other bookstores are not getting them out fast enough. So all that information is on my website. The meditation just now was beautiful. Decrease stimulation to minimize triggers. It was from August 18th of the book. That's when the reading was from. And so this is the type of meditation I would like you to do during this time, because if you're sitting alone in your house and you're sheltering in place, that could be a positive for empaths. It's finally, you know, I mean, if you're alone, if you're with family members, I'll discuss that down the line. That's a little bit different because you might be going stir crazy with them. But if, let's say you're alone and you're sheltering in place and you're an empath who likes being alone, you know, you're finally given the time you need, you know, the time you need without the intrusions of people around you. And so during that time, the pluses are you have that decreased stimulation. The challenge may be that you have your head. What causes the suffering are your thoughts. What causes the suffering are your thoughts. And so if you're sitting at home and your mind is going, oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, you know, these people are suffering. Oh my, you know, if you begin to fuel that, it's like setting fire to hay. It just goes from one to another, and it makes a big fire. Your job as an empath and as a mindful person is to use this period to breathe, to center yourself, to come back to your heart, to put your hand on your heart. Seeing all these comments ensures me I'm not alone, from Kristen. You are not alone, Kristen. We're all here together, and it's so beautiful to have this call, and I can feel all of you. Feeling more exhausted, and so helpful to hear this validation. That was so deep. I started crying because it touched me on a deep level. All right, this is an empath call. I love that. I love everyone who's being so open in the comments. So you are not alone, and you have control over your mind, over your thoughts. Now, I want to read you just some of this other selection from January 12th in Thriving as an Empath. It's not my job to take on the world's pain. That's a big one. That's really hard. But as an empath, let's say we weren't going through this time. If you could backtrack and go back to your past, notice if you were taking on the pain of loved ones. Notice if you were taking on the pain of people you don't even know, or the homeless encampment when you drive by. Are you taking on their pain? Probably, but it's something to work with so that you are able to center yourself and send people positive energy and love, but not take on their pain. So this is a selection from January 12th. It's not my job to take on the world's pain. As an empath, you have an open heart. You don't have the same emotional guard up that many others do. You feel people's pain, both loved ones and strangers, and you instinctively want to take it away from them. In fact, many of us have been taught that being compassionate means it's our job to remove other people's pain. How many of you were taught that it's your job to remove other people's pain? Because if you have that belief system, there's an awful lot of pain and suffering going on right now. And so you don't want to take it into your body. It is not your job to take on other people's pain. You can hold a supportive space for someone without absorbing their distress in your own body. Finding that balance is the art of healing. Inwardly, you can say, I care about you, but this is not my burden to carry. It is impossible to fix someone or fix the situation right now in terms of you individually fixing it. And it's really none of your business to try. More than 20 years of being a physician has taught me that everyone deserves the dignity of their own path. Now, this is key. I will be compassionate without being a martyr or taking on another's pain. or taking on the world's pain for that matter. I will respect someone's healing process without trying to fix them. Ooh, I know that's difficult because you want to help and you want to fix and you want this all to be better. And you don't want your loved ones to suffer. You don't want to suffer. And so the empath, being an emotional sponge and such a big heart, so caring, we want to take on the world's pain. And if you do that, you won't be feeling the vitality. If you try to do that, or you instinctively do that, when you're watching the news, you empaths often instinctively are just wide open and they're emotional sponges. So they're taking on everything that's going on in the news or what other people are saying. So you need to take a breath. You need to say to yourself in your mind, I do not need to be a martyr to be compassionate. And it is not my job to take on other people's pain. You can practice the shielding technique, which is picturing a bubble or a white light all around your physical body, about 5 inches from your body. And it's a protective shield that you can put up through a visualization. It's a conscious method to protect your own energy from the toxicity or stress that's around you. And so you can visualize putting a shield all around your body, protecting you, keeping you safe, not letting panic in, not letting fear in, not letting the frenzy and the chaos of the world in, and to be able to protect yourself in that way. And it's not just a mental visualization. This is an energetic building of a shield that is around you and it protects you. And so during this time, and always feel free to use that technique because it's very effective. You can do that whenever you want, and you can take the shield down whenever you want, and it won't stop you from being compassionate. Somebody just said, Susie said, I use the shield in airports. And Nick says the energetic shield is real. And let's see, Laura, to everyone, hello, fellow empaths, how beautiful it is to be here. I am appreciating the tender community here. So practice the shielding technique. It's very important. Here's a question from Bhavina. Let me see. I'm sorry, let's just go on to Devra. That took me years to figure out. It has been my healing. Thanks for saying no. Just reading this helps me not feel so alone. And then Malosis, I really love being alone, but I feel I must take on the other people's pain, as you say. So it is so strange between the dream of having so much alone time and so much pain in the world. Isn't that so? Here we are, we're finally they're leaving us alone. Or those that are alone, we're alone and we have the luxury of time and space around us. And yet the world is suffering. The body of the world is suffering. However, I'd like to add to that the earth is getting a nice big breath of relief. I know where I live in Southern California, the air is wonderful now. It's clearer than ever. And it's just medicine to be able to breathe in this fresh air. And so the earth is getting a pause. So when you talk about human suffering, yes, there's a tremendous amount of human suffering now. But the earth, if you tune into it, and some of you may be earth empaths who are very connected to the changes of the earth, the movements of the earth, whether the earth is being ravaged, whether the earth is being purified and strengthened as it is now, you might want to spend some of your alone time tuning into the earth and feeling the breath, the respite, the time out for the earth. As empaths, we all need a time out. And the earth, in my opinion, I feel so connected to the earth. The earth and the natural world is so important to me in terms of my Taoist philosophy and in terms of my everyday life, the ability to connect to nature. Whether you live in an apartment in New York City and you see some little leaves outside your window, and new flowers are blooming amidst all of this in New York City. I have a friend who's held up in her apartment who sent me a picture of the beautiful cherry blossoms. So there's life happening as well. And the earth is so vital. So for you, in your time during the day, to take some time to feel the earth and connect to the earth and do some earthing. Earthing will help to ground your fear. And by earthing, I mean putting your feet on the ground, walking on the dirt, walking in the sand, walking on grass, whatever you can do to connect to yourself. That will help you not take on other people's pain as much. To stop taking on suffering, you need to be grounded yourself, and you need to tame your mind, what's going on here. If you just allow yourself in an undisciplined way to listen to the news or to be around other people who are panicking, and through what they're telling you, they're upsetting you, if you're not able to set limits with them, it's very hard to be grounded. So during this time period, it's very important to be able to set limits with the negativity from people or energy vampires, toxic people around you. It's very important. I've said to friends more than once, who have said, oh, do you want this article that's going to upset you even more? And I said, no, please don't send it to me. I don't want it. So I'm informed, but I try not to be overly informed, because there's so much evidence out there that could cause you to be afraid. And so you want to be able to set limits. And by setting limits with people, by saying, no, I really appreciate you feel that way, but I don't want to really hear about that now. Empaths need to learn to set limits. That will help decrease the amount you suffer. And it'll decrease your tendency to want to take on the suffering of the world. So learning to set limits with other people who are panicked, learning to set limits with yourself in terms of watching the news, learning how to set limits with positive self-talk, which means you talk to yourself about the fear that you have in your mind. I'm witness to the fear. I'm witness to my thoughts every day. So I don't get caught in that prison of suffering that could be up in your head. And so as empaths, it's really important, if you take on other people's pain, to tell yourself in your mind, it is not my job to be a martyr. I can be helpful, I can be loving without being a martyr for other people's pain. Sarah just shared, I take on other people's pain and energy, good or bad, without even trying. It's like an attack. I don't know, I don't want to take it on, and it's not my job to do it anyways. How do you shield yourself? So it's the shielding technique. I mean, that's such a great question, Sarah. I love that question, because that's the bottom line. How do you go through a time like this, or any difficult time in your life? This is not unlike other difficult times, except the volume is turned way, way up. The volume is turned way up. And so speaking to yourself in a positive self-talk is very important. Telling yourself, it is not my job to martyr myself. It is not helpful. If I channel all this energy that's happening in the world through my body, this isn't a helpful thing. And so you need to talk to yourself. And if you notice any obsession with fear, you need to take a breath, stop yourself, come back to center, and change your thoughts. So now the power of positive thoughts, or the power of being able to tame your thoughts, so you don't, in an undisciplined manner, go into all of that fear. So you can have control over that. You can't control what's going on in the world as a whole, or the virus, but you can control your attitude about it. And I'm not saying that it's not normal to have fear and distress and loneliness and anxiety. Whatever you're feeling is totally okay. But what I'm also saying is to take an approach where you take more control over your own thoughts, and seeing yourselves as empaths and not being martyrs during this time. I'd really like you to take that in, not being a martyr during this time, and not being a martyr with other people, or having to listen to their panic. You need to give yourself permission to not indulge other people's panic, because it will ignite you. You want to be around people who can center themselves a bit more and not trigger you. On April 9th, I have a section on overcoming adversity and thriving as an empath. All right, take a breath, listen with your bodies, not just your mind, and just take this in. When you can commit to living a life based on love, not fear, you have the foundation for dealing with adversity. Obstacles are a part of living. Learning how to overcome them with grace instead of frustration is an essential self-care skill. As we go through the Passover and Easter season, meditate on the power of liberating yourself from emotional slavery and oppression. Sometimes we have to be lost so that we can be found. We all have our own deserts to wander through in order to be liberated. And I'm sure you're facing your own deserts now. Everyone is facing that. What would you like to free yourself from? A toxic relationship? An anxious reaction to the virus? Shame about your body? Reluctance to express your needs? Isolation, depression, anxiety? In this inquiry, be kind to yourself. Inwardly request that any fear-based beliefs or addiction to fear or obsession with anxiety be lifted. See every obstacle in your life as a spiritual prompt to grow. The Tao Te Ching, an ancient Taoist text of wisdom, says, he or she is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. He or she is ready to use all situations, including this pandemic, and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. We are together as a community. You are not alone out there. If you can feel everyone in this call, we are together and we can do this. As a group, we can gather together our heart energy and our focus to embody the light and to say no to fear as much as we can, to be able to take care of ourselves in a practical way, but not let fear trigger you and take your mind and your body over. Set your intention. I will be strong. I will be compassionate. I will be capable of handling whatever life brings with patience and kindness. I'd like everyone to close their eyes right now and take a deep breath. And I'll lead you through a short meditation to shift out of fear and to come into your heart. And so if everyone could just take a few deep breaths together. Breathing in clarity, breathing out stress. Breathing in joy, breathing in calmness, breathing out low self-esteem and anxiety, breathing in strength, breathing out confusion, breathing in a connection to spirit, breathing out uncertainty. Then if thoughts come, picture them as clouds in the sky and just let them pass by. And then come back to your heart. I have my hand over my heart chakra, which is in the middle of my chest. And I'd like everyone to place their hands over their hearts. Take a few deep breaths and focus on something that you love. It may be the night sky. It may be a sunset. It could be a little animal friend. Anything that makes you happy, I'd like you to focus on and keep your hand over your heart. Breathe in, breathe out to feel the calming, healing energy that's in the heart. You might feel warmth. You might feel tingling. You might feel a blissful sensation coming from your heart. Together as a global community, we can feel the power of the heart, and being together amplifies our experience. In the quiet, you can do this exercise, putting your hand on your heart, focusing, calming yourself, bringing yourself back to center through the loving energy of the heart, and to feel the calmness inside your chest, settling you, soothing you, tuning into the healing energy in the body. Feeling the bliss, the oneness, the love between empaths and all sensitive, loving, caring people circling around the world, so many of us to connect to. You are not alone. We are all in this together. Focusing as heart-centered, sensitive people. Treating ourselves with compassion and love, and sending that out to the world. You can send loving energy, and let's all do it now with our eyes closed, to the world without taking anything on. You're sending, not receiving. Just picture yourself like a bright sun, sending out rays of love to the entire planet, to the entire universe. And feeling that enormous light and love that's within you, and its ability to travel miles and miles, universes and universes. Allow that warmth from your heart to expand without trying to do anything, without efforting. And for you to feel the comfort of this heart chakra, this heart energy inside of you, right here, right now, with all of us. And to imprint this feeling so you can take it with you when this call ends and recreate it over and over again during this stressful time and throughout your entire life. So in gratitude, you can thank the forces that be, the power of the heart, and very gently, slowly open up your eyes and come back to this call, all together, present in your body, a community of global empaths. I mean, how wonderful is that, coming together? So this is the heart meditation that you can practice over and over again. And I do this whenever I start feeling myself going off. I bring myself back to the heart. And I practice this. This is a practice. It's a meditation practice. And you can do this for 3 minutes a day. You don't have to do it for more than that. I happen to, because I need it more, because I notice, tune into my body when I'm off. And when I start to go off, I come back to myself. And that's the practice now and always. But it's something that could take the edge off this experience and decrease your tendency to want to take on the energy of the world. The beautiful thing about meditation is that you radiate out. You don't do anything. It's not your ego. You're not forcing anything. So you're not expending energy. You're allowing the light within you and the love within you to radiate, which it does naturally. You know, it does that all the time. You don't have to get in there and mess with it. And empaths who often want to get in there and control everything or micromanage, you don't. It's the wrong thing to do with this. You need to feel the loving kindness inside yourself and keep building that every day. and allow it to do its thing. It radiates naturally. You don't have to direct it. So this is one meditation that I use in my life that I suggest you use to help yourself through this time period now, that could be very soothing, as a lot of empaths haven't learned to self-soothe. And this is a time when you need all the self-soothing exercises that you can get. And this is one that will work every time. If you notice you're doing this 3-minute heart meditation and your mind is wandering and you're thinking about the news, you're thinking about your mate, take a breath, come back to yourself and focus on the feelings of the heart and whatever it is that you love. And this will replenish you over and over again. And during this time period, we need this more than ever. I mean, this will do more for you than letting your mind wander and getting afraid and talking to your friends about being afraid. This heart meditation is something you can do to strengthen yourself. And more than ever, you can do it. I mean, even if your mind is wandering, you know, if it's wandering to God knows where it goes, but you know where it goes, bring it back to center. You know, I know everybody, you know, their minds are just so active, the monkey minds. So you want to bring it back. Okay. From Deborah, this took me years to figure out. It has been my healing. I've always felt it was my job to take on other people's pain. I was taught that, but now I know better. So all of this is really good. And you could practice not taking on other people's pain by doing this meditation, by talking to yourself, by taking conscious control of taming your mind. Now, a number of people have submitted questions that I'd like to address. They're all so good and they're so relevant. These are from empaths around the globe. So just know, again, I'm going to emphasize, you're not alone. We're not alone. We're all, feel everybody here. I can feel you, Catherine. You know, I can feel all of you. And as empaths, we're so good at that, aren't we? And so you can feel the connection, the friendship, the camaraderie of this community. Now this question is from Natalie from Switzerland. How can an empath deal with all the global heavy feelings? As an empath, protection is very important, but how can I protect myself when the whole world is suffering and panicking and afraid? All right, great question. I mean, how many of you have asked yourself that as well? And what we've been talking about so far on this call is applicable to that. Yes, the world is frightening and afraid, but how do you center yourself so you don't take that on? Through breath work, through the heart centering meditation, through the shielding technique that I discussed to keep that negative energy at abeyance. You don't want it coming in your body. Empaths tend to take on, they feel so much, their hearts are going out and they take it all on. You want to stop yourself. You want to be aware of when you start doing that. Do you absorb the energy of other people and how not to? Be aware when you're reaching out too much, when you're becoming too porous, and then apply the shielding technique, apply the heart-centered meditation, apply the positive self-talk, apply all this so that you can use mindfulness not to take it on. I'm not saying there's not a lot of suffering in the world. And by the way, you know, the Buddha says, and said so long ago, life is suffering. Now, we might not see it, or maybe you do, but a lot of people don't see it in the US as much as some other countries. This planet is suffering. It's an illusion to think that this is just sweetness and light here. This is a place to learn. This is a place to grow. It's a place to become strong and overcome the negativity and the dark energies of the world. It's to be able to have that connection and centeredness within, and that spiritual devotion within, to be able to overcome this. This is a school, an earth school. And I know a lot of you look at it that way, that this is a place for us to learn. And the minute you get into victimhood, you're lost. The minute that happens, you're lost. And so in order not to take on the suffering of the earth now or any time, anytime. I mean, you could just look at the normal news cycle and feel enormous suffering, whether it's local or global, is not a surprise to me. And empaths know, how much suffering there is in the world because they can feel it. But not taking it on, learning to breathe and center yourself. What I do, first and foremost, let's say, I notice I'm picking up somebody else's suffering. I immediately take a breath and breathe it out. Natalie, when you start focusing, your mind is very active, first of all. As I could feel it, as are many of our minds, they're very, very active. And so it's important to quiet the mind and not keep telling yourself that other people are suffering, to be able to build up your own strength rather than ruminate on it. And you come back to yourself, you breathe, you center yourself, you put up your shield, you set limits and boundaries with negative people. You try and create something positive for yourself during the day. That's important, to have your alone time listening to music, being with your animals. If you can take a walk in the sunlight or look up at the night sky, to create something positive, to, if you're sheltering in place with your mate, to be able to have quality times together, to be able to meditate together, to set aside meditation time for yourself. You see, all of this is self-care. That's what I feel so strongly about for empaths in general, learning how to practice self-care. And now, in particular, practicing self-care. All right, another question from Joy. Many people are experiencing a lot of sadness. As empaths, how can we choose peace and a more positive attitude? Joy, I love that question, because the whole point of this is that we have a choice. Just because you feel pain doesn't mean you need to take it on. The difference between pain and suffering is pain is something that you feel. Suffering is what we do to ourselves and our own minds a lot of the time in terms of mental suffering. And so making that choice to carve out some time and use the benefit of this alone time to come back to yourself, use the benefit of this alone time to develop your meditation practice. Meditation is so important, particularly during this time. Meditation allows you to sit, to be quiet, and to connect to yourself and the greater spiritual forces that are around. Meditation allows you to get out of your small self and tune into this larger universe that is all around you. And it's the universe or the beneficent power of love. You can start feeling something greater than what's happening here. And the reason that's so important to connect to that now is so you can keep your perspective. As an empath, you're very open to energies. And energies of spirituality, the energy of being protected, being cared for, the energy of the heart is what can get you through this. And so by activating the energy of the heart through your meditation practice and through how you treat yourself, if you're sitting there and your mind, I see a lot of you relaxing now. I could see the tension lifting from your faces, the ones that I can see. And that's beautiful to see. The softness comes over you. You can feel content and centeredness, even with everything that's happening. And that's the point, is how do you center yourself? How do you learn these tools while we're here on earth, whether now during this time period or always? And how do you center yourself in this chaos? And again, I'm going to keep repeating, the center is the heart. You come back to the heart. And let's say your heart is in pain because of all the suffering. You take a breath, you center yourself, and you ask your heart to expand. You want to get beyond your own personal experience and your own mental experience and feel something larger. Tune into nature, tune into your animals, tune into what you love. Spend some time with that, and that will increase your power and help you center yourself during this time period, which is so key. All right, some other questions. All right, here's a question not directly related to this pandemic crisis we're experiencing. It's a great question. This is from Heidi. I am an extrovert and an emotional empath. When I read the Empath Survival Guide, you talked about emotional empaths being introverted. I would like to understand this more, as I feel that I am a unique bird in this regard. All right, great question, because empaths can be introverts. I'm an introvert, very much so, but empaths can be extroverts. Empaths can like to be out in social situations and like to go out and do small talk, which, you know, I abhor. I don't like small talk, and many empaths don't like small talk. It's always been so awkward for me, and I don't like it. But extroverted empaths love it. They're so good at going out there, and it gives them energy. So just know that as an empath, you can be an extrovert or you can be an introvert, and to honor that. But if you're an extroverted empath, you need to also take that time to decompress after you socialize. And, you know, again, we're going to get back into the socializing world. So a little bit of a unique situation here that all of us are sheltering in place and alone, but we will, you know, ease back into that socializing world. And so the extroverts, in fact, are having a lot of difficulty during this time period because they so crave the human contact. And, you know, it's so important as part of the way they operate to go out in the world. And so what I would suggest for extroverted empaths is just make that extra effort to reach out to people on the phone, on Zoom. There's so many Zoom calls now, like this. And if you have the proper energy, you can connect very well on Zoom calls. You can even have meditation Zoom calls. I'm going to be giving a series of Zoom calls later on in this month, just 2, where I'm going to take people through meditations. I'm going to go through more self-care techniques, and you could sign up for that on my website, drjudithorloff.com, if you'd like more support. But other kinds of Zoom calls, there's been global meditation Zoom calls, there's been AA Zoom calls and 12-step Zoom calls. So there are ways to connect to other people. It's not, you know, being in the presence of someone. And I've got to tell you, as an empath, I've always fought for my alone time. And now where I'm given an excess of alone time, I'm enjoying it, but I'm also missing the human contact. We're missing, you know, missing the hugs, as so many people are. I'm missing being in the energetic presence of other people and being with my friends, you know, and so many of you might be feeling that too, probably are. And so it's given me a new appreciation of the socializing process, because all my life I've just been fighting for my alone time, and it's always been like that. And now I'm craving for, you know, going out and being in an outdoor restaurant and just having a meal with a friend, you know, simple things. I like simple things. You know, as an empath, I've never been big on going out to big stadiums or large events. I don't like that because they exhaust me, or shopping malls. I don't really like it. But what I love, being with small groups of people and connecting, and just simple things. During this time, I've been creating all these flower arrangements around the house, you know, just the connection of flowers, putting them next to my Kuan Yin statue. I've been getting a lot of enjoyment from that. And also the connection, you know, with my mate, you know, and with friends by phone. That's all been important. So as an empath, even though you love being alone, if you're feeling social isolation, it's important to reach out too. And, you know, hopefully I'll be offering more for the empath community in terms of not feeling so isolated and coming together in these calls, because it's important when you're in these calls. And when I'm with you now, what I'm doing is I'm not just talking, I'm feeling you. And there's, you know, I had to cap this call at 1,000 people. There were so many people who wanted to attend it. And so there's so many people out there that you can feel that. It's kind of beautiful because you don't have to be around them in order to feel their energy. And as empaths, you sense the world through energy. And it's a way through this call, and maybe you could experiment with this right now, because I'm feeling my heart expand and go all the way around the world and around the universe, feeling all of you and sending love to all of you. This is a productive thing to do, to send love to each other. And perhaps as a group, we can do that now. to just take a breath, center yourself, feel relaxed in your body, and begin to sense the people on this call, the many people on this call, and the many people that will listen to it later, connecting and sending love. This is sending. This isn't necessarily receiving. It's sending love to everyone. All the empaths, all the loving, caring people around the globe, sending them this beautiful love energy, this nurturing, will give them strength to get through anything, to feel the warm, fuzzy, connected feeling in the heart. So just practice sending, not efforting. You don't have to effort. You just have to request that your heart send out this energy and just let it do its thing. Don't exert any effort or exhaust yourself doing this. And that's your ego. That's your personal self. Whenever you send loving energy, it's always through the part of you that is the large self beyond the personal. And so everyone can feel the love that's connecting all of us, who are all sending love to each other as a group, to take that nurturing energy along with us on our paths, feeling buoyed by the energy of community, connection. Even though we can't be in each other's physical presence, we can connect through the heart. And the heart is a very powerful connector. And as empaths, you know about sensing the subtle energies. And so by connecting to your heart and sending love to all of us on this call and all over the world, there is no limit to what you can send. No effort, just let the heart flow. We can give that gift to each other. And what might help you is to put your hands up if you have the video on, and to be able to feel the love coming from you. It's so beautiful to watch you, all of you do this. And to feel the love coming from each one of us towards you, towards everyone, towards the circle of empaths everywhere. And allow yourself to receive the love without efforting, without doing anything, just receiving. Okay, it feels good, doesn't it? I hope everyone can take that with them from this call and feel how it elevates you. And this is something you can practice at home. You can do this with friends on Zoom. You can do this with people in your space. You could practice just sending loving energy, which will elevate you. And, I know some of you with medical problems or those who need to go out and see doctors. A lot of the doctors aren't really available in terms of their physical presence, but you can do Zoom calls with them, which isn't, it's a limited thing. So you need to practice as much self-healing as possible during this very unusual situation. And this is the way to do it. When you decrease the stress in your body through the power of the heart, you can send love, you can receive love without efforting. I can't emphasize enough how important it is not to exert effort when you do this. When you feel loving energy and when you express it to others, you allow it. You do not force it. If you notice that you're forcing and squeezing and trying to get that energy out to people, that's not the way to do it. It's just to be a vessel, to be a channel for loving energy, allow it to go in your own body, and allow it to flow to others. This will keep you vibrant during this time, energetically vibrant, by connecting to this loving energy in your heart. And so it's something beautiful to practice now and always. One final question before we tie up. this is from Sue. How do I balance reading elements of the news, carefully selected and time limited for my own understanding, and be able to keep my stress levels down? All right, this is key, the news. How do empaths handle the news? You must limit it. It's very key that you limit the news and only get the very basics that you need for your own edification. You don't want to keep watching it. As there can be an addiction to the news, empaths can be addicted to suffering. And so you keep watching, you keep looking, you keep checking. And you have to talk to yourself, have a strategy to limit it, and perhaps give yourself days without the news if you don't need it, and take a technology fast. And so it's all about balance, but it's about how you center yourself in your life now so you could stay centered and not be triggered by other people's emotions. People are well-meaning, but you need to be able to set kind but firm limits with people who encroach on your boundaries, and to say no to the news, to take technology fast, to connect as much to nature as possible, and to connect to your meditation practice and learning to shield yourself, set limits and boundaries, learn that no is a complete sentence. And I hope that this book is a guide for you, and I hope it can help you. It's each day of the year a different self-care strategy to use, and this is how I've marked up my book. You know, all of the different topics I've wanted to talk about today that I didn't quite get to, but they're all in here. And I look at this book, I treasure this book, and hopefully you can get it soon enough where you can use it during this time period. And there's also the Audible version and the Kindle version that you can get immediately. But the hardcover, yeah, oh good, somebody put their thumbs up. That's good, thank you, Catherine. So hopefully you can get it soon. And I just want to send my love to everyone, say that I think empathy is a trait that's going to save the world. And it's so important that empaths are the ones who can be stewards of the earth and can be here, because they have the heart, they have the compassion, they have the sensitivity. And you know, there's a saying that I love, that the meek will inherit the earth. And it's translated to the sensitive will inherit the earth. And I believe that the empaths can do that. And all the more reason to take care of yourself, take really good care of yourself during this trying period, is we need your gifts more than ever now. All right, the challenges are real, the challenges are large, but hopefully that the techniques in this call will help you, and the techniques in thriving as an empath. And I hope to see some of you in the 2 Zoom calls that I'm offering the end of April, first week in May, and you could sign up for that on my website, drjudithorloff.com. And there's also an empath online course if you'd like to take it in your solitude to learn the basics of being an empath. That's also on my website. So I send you all so much love and so much gratitude, and hopefully we'll connect again during this time period. And know that this too shall pass. Life goes in sine waves. This too shall pass, and these techniques will stand you in good stead, whether you are in this time period or not. But for this time period, I send you tremendous love and look forward to connecting to you again soon. And namaste. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful evening.